Hello, YouTube. It has been a very long time. I apologize for that. A couple things came up. First thing, whole family got super sick for about 2 weeks, which really set us back. And I basically could not talk for nearly 2 weeks. It's pretty bad. I was getting pretty frustrated. Took some time off work and all that kind of stuff, but there was no way I was going to be live streaming. So come back around, fortunately, holidays around the corner, everything like that. It's pretty excited to not be ill. Also, kind of excited to get back online and play some Phantasy Star because I've been looking at some of the forums recently, and the game has really picked up. At one point, I think 3 or 4 days ago, I think there was about 20, 25 people on, which might not sound like a ton by today's standards of modern gaming, but when you think of how small the community is, to have like 20, 25 people on all at once, it's a pretty decent chunk. But unfortunately, I didn't participate. I guess I probably could have played without live streaming, but also part of being ill, just totally wiped. But that's not fun. Another problem is also happening with the channel. A few people that might have looked at some of my other videos might notice that the content has been significantly limited and pretty much just live streams up at this moment. And that's because there was a copyright troll that was going through my page and flagging all sorts of videos. And at one point, I ended up getting 2 strikes. And, with 3 strikes, your page is basically shut down. So I had to kind of keep things on the DL until one of those strikes expired. And I'm going to put up the rest of that content again once I know that I have 0 strikes and I can, kind of have a bit of a buffer. I really don't want to put the content back up or list it rather publicly until I'm confident that, I've got 0 strikes on my account and hopefully that troll has moved on by some company called Lasso, Lasso, and they didn't have any identification other than that name. I did a bit of Google searching, and they do have a web page called Lasso Group, and all it basically says is they act on behalf of third-party copyright holders to enforce copyright, which basically tells me they scan YouTube and they flag every video they can. They don't have any backing from any of these first-party copyright holders, and they just monetize the videos on their own behalf. So actually, the last strike I got, I tried to appeal it, and with no explanation in the appeal, they just gave me a strike. So anyways, had to keep a bit of a low profile until that stuff subsided, and yeah, we're back in the game. So pretty jacked to play some Phantasy Star Online. I got a ton of cool stuff here, and Christmas is around the corner. I'm sure we're gonna have a lot more cool stuff then. Well, maybe not for me. It's for kids, but I want to show you guys one thing before we do start up Phantasy Star, and that's this. So a few months back, there's this guy named Chris Moon, and he started talking about a new power supply unit that he was creating for the Dreamcast. Now, some of you might be wondering, why would you want a new power supply unit? Isn't the one that came with it fine? And it is, to a certain extent. Some of them start to fail. It's also very large. It probably takes up about a third of the Dreamcast space. When you actually kind of break it down, you've got the GD-ROM unit on top. You've got this whole left section that's reserved for power. You've got a small front plate, and then you've got a board underneath, and that's basically it. So there's a lot of space being taken up by this power supply unit. So he created one that was much smaller called the Dream PSU. And he put it on Indiegogo, and he was really straightforward with how the project was going, when it was going to be released, and all that kind of stuff. And he said it was going to be released in November, and it came out in November. I was really excited. It's actually much smaller than I thought. I wish I had an actual power supply unit to compare it by, but comparatively speaking, it's probably about 6 inches long, roughly from one end of your Dreamcast to the other. And this unit here, you'll see I have this bag, and there's actually two. I bought two, one for the one downstairs, one upstairs. It is super tiny. So it's only this big. I haven't installed it yet. I'll tell you why in a second. So hopefully it'll get into focus here and you guys can get a good look at what's going on. Okay, here we go. Let's push it right up there, and there we go. Much better. No. Oh, there we go. Much better. Come on. Get into focus there, you son of a gun. Anyways, so I'm going to show you guys why it's super cool. It'll come into focus. So right here is where you plug in the adapter that goes to the, because you're going to have to replace your actual original power jack, and it comes with the barrel that you replace it with. So you plug the barrel into there, and then on top here is the pins for the power, and then these parts right here are what interest me the most. So these are actually breakout ports. So you've got two, are these the 12? Yeah, these two here are 12 volt breakouts, and these two here are two 5 volt breakouts. And you might be wondering, like, why is that interesting? Well, what that means now is that I've got all this stuff here. I'm going to be working on this project. It's actually not going to take me too long. The only thing I'm waiting for right now before I put everything together is I ended up ordering a VA0 Japanese Dreamcast board. And why that is cool is because it actually came with a liquid cooling unit and a metal fan. So it's got these large, they look like aluminum pads that go over the CPUs, and they've got these pipes that go back to the fan. And it's actually much more of a durable board in terms of the way it was just constructed and everything like that. Plus, it keeps everything a lot cooler and it's a lot quieter. I also ordered a Nocturna quiet fan as well, so I'll put that on. But with this 5 volt breakout pad, I can actually power the Raspberry Pi. And I'll have enough space inside, now that we only have this part to worry about for power, to put the Raspberry Pi inside the Dreamcast so I can have a built-in DreamPi to the Dreamcast. So I'm super excited about that. And 12 volts out, I was looking at some other things I could probably do with that, and one thing I could probably do is actually put some LEDs on the inside, 12 volt LEDs, and that could, just for fun, like, why the fuck not, right? So really, really cool. 2 breakout 5 volt pads, 2 breakout 12 volt pads. What that means is you're going to need to have a fairly decent adapter. Now, it doesn't come with an adapter because you're actually, this was brought to my attention. I didn't think about it when I first bought it, but this is not a power supply. This is more like a power distributor. You're going to need, actually, do I have it here? Here, 1 second. You're going to need an external power supply. So just a regular power adapter. I ended up ordering a fairly high-end one. It's going to need to have 12 volts of power, and the suggested voltage is 2 to 3 milliamps, but you're probably, or 2 to 3 amps rather, but you're going to probably want something closer to 5. And the reason for that is if you're going to be putting anything on the breakout ports, you're going to want to make sure that your amperage is a bit higher, so that way it doesn't, cause anything to short or catch fire, things like that. So 5 milliamps or 5 amps rather, and 12 volts. That's what I would suggest. So anyways, pretty cool little power distributor. I probably won't get my VA0 board until after Christmas, but hopefully I get it during the holidays because I do have a bit of time off and I can start putting this whole thing together and have some fun. So yeah, that was from this guy named Chris Moon. It's called the Dream PSU. When he started the Indiegogo campaign, he did mention that it was probably going to be like a one and done type project. Now that it's come out, and some people have been asking about it because people have been showing pictures on various forums about what they've been doing with their Dream PSU, a lot of new people have come in and they're saying, like, where can I buy this? Why didn't I know it was available? Now, Chris made it like he was plugging this thing everywhere. He kept everybody up to date on the campaign, and he did let people know it was going to be one and done. But I think with the renewed interest in it and some of the projects and some of the things that people have been doing with this new board, he's going to probably do a second run. So if you're interested in it, just look up Dream PSU and go to his website or go to the Indiegogo campaign, and then you can follow the website from there. So that's it. All right. Well, we can show a lot of other stuff in a bit, but in the meantime, let's fire up our Dreamcast. And let's go to Pioneer and see who's online. Now, this will be the first beer in a long time, so hopefully one doesn't knock me on my ass, but you never know. Oh, look at that. It's been so long that my battery reset. Da-da-da-da-da. Guess it really doesn't matter what time it is. That's going to boot me back to the main screen and hit play, and we should be good to go. Now, the one thing I haven't done with this yet is that I had some complaints about the interface. Like when you load up the USB GD-ROM, it kind of sends you to this sort of BIOS looking screen, and it doesn't look that pretty. But what I failed to realize is that you can run the Dreamshell image directly from this as well. And then you can run your games through that if you want. If you want to have a GUI, like if you want to have a graphic user interface. So I think I might actually do that. So the next time we play, I'm going to put on Dreamshell on a stick and then just show you guys what that looks like if you haven't seen it before. I've also got to rip a couple of games anyways, so maybe I can show you how you rip games with Dreamshell. It's actually pretty simple. Holy smokes, we got a ton of people in the chat today. So hey, how's it going, everybody? Okay, so I have actually put a ton of games on my stick recently, and I've been trying to bust them up so that they're a bit easier to find. So for instance, anything that's online, I've just put in the online category. My NTSCU directory has a lot of games I'm probably going to purge because I've saved the raw files to another hard drive, and I'm just using the USB stick at the moment. But there's, I don't need every Dreamcast game available, especially from the North American catalog. There's really good games for the most part, but I don't play the 2K sports games, and I don't play all the racing games. There are some games that were, basically just movie tie-ins that aren't very good. So I don't need those games. So I'm just going to get rid of those and put on the games I like. A lot of the PAL exclusives, Japanese exclusives, things like that. And you can get some of the CDI images from places like Emu Paradise that have translations for a lot of the what do you call them? They're like story adventure type games. That were pretty much exclusive to Japan, as well as a lot of the RPGs, and even some of the games that require you to read a lot of Japanese text, such as Fire Pro Wrestling. So you can buy you can download patches for those games, and they've been available forever from like ISO Zone and stuff like that. But it makes it a little bit easier. I do have a lot of those discs, like Fire Pro and things like that, but I doubt I'll really ever play them because you're going to need to have a legend beside you until you learn to speak or read Japanese, which I'd love to, but I don't think it's going to happen. All right, let's see who is on which ship tonight. All right, well, we've got a few folks. It is the holidays, so let's see who's on board. Okay, so the stream is getting the audio from... Okay, that's good to know. So let's just get that and use this real quick. All right, so hopefully that sounds a little bit better. Okay, guys, did it switch over properly? Let me know in the comment, and let me just go here quickly to the filters. Okay, everything looks good. Sorry about this, we're just tending some little bit of difficulties here. Okay, so resolution. Okay, cool. Looks like everything is good to go. Okay, perfect. Okay, awesome. All right, guys, thanks a lot. I would have probably never guessed that was what was going on. All right, organize. You can tell it's been a long time because I don't know why I would have defaulted to the mic instead of the condenser I have up here, but oh well, it is what it is. Drink up, guys. It is the Christmas break. I have to actually work tomorrow, Saturday. But my boss already told me. She said, just do what you got to do in the morning and then take off. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, cool. So we got Bones and I don't know, Griggs. Hey, all. Cool. All right. Red pipe, my man. Awesome. All right. Well, let's find the red pipe straight ahead. And I think I put my mag
Didn't you just post a vid? Not in a while, but I am streaming. Cool, so Bones must be watching the stream too. Alright, so take item, and we were building up our, hopefully it's in here, there we go, our Dreamcast mag. Da-da-da-da. And let's equip it, mag, equip, cool. And our synchro is 0. Been a while. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Let's go to... Actually, we don't need anything there. Let's just get the red pipe. Let's get some Masetta. Let's fight a couple of monsters, and then we'll worry about that. We're going to need to get some Dimates because we are building up this mag a little bit. It's only at level 5, as you can tell. Fortunately, we're just playing very hard, and we've got a couple of good players. Bones, we've played with many times in the past, so it should be pretty easy round up until we get to the dragon. Alright. Okay, where is everybody? Item, area, map. Where'd they go? Okay, they're up there. So we want to head up this way. There we go. We want to go through this door right here. Saw that somebody mentioned the video is lagging. Let me know if there's any issues, and I will try to fix it. Again, it's been a little while since we started playing, so I haven't got everything quite optimized as of yet. Okay, so we want to get Griggs to get a couple shots in. We don't want to necessarily take everything out right away because they're still leveling up. It would be nice to get them to a level 80 so that way we can start having some real fun. Okay, so let's go to our mag, Dreamcast. We can't quite give an item yet. No problem. I do like that Dreamcast mag. It looks really cool. I hope that when we start evolving our mag, it doesn't really change its look. You want to do mission or something, Greg? Should we kill the dragon first? Dragon first, I'm down. Okay, cool. Easy XP. Alright, sweet. So we're going to kill the dragon first, then we're going to start a quest. Actually, it looks like we just started playing this level, so... Oh, there we go. That's it for these guys. We're going to keep using the Yasminkov for a little while, I think. I really like this weapon. And it's kind of cool because you can actually see your shield, which you couldn't do with the other weapon, unfortunately, because the two-handed weapons... You know, it's just kind of off to the side. You just don't notice it for whatever reason. So I kind of like this setup. You can see the Dreamcast mag, you can see the shield, you can see the two weapons. And it's all about the aesthetics. I think maybe next time we go to log off, we're going to go to the dressing room and see if we can change our color or do something with our character. Make him look a little bit different. We've kept him like this for, what, 2 years now? So he can benefit from a little bit of a paint job, don't you think? Okay, so as I was saying, it's been a long while. It's been since December 5th, and I've been fighting with a bunch of copyright stuff, and I've been, you know, ill. You can probably hear it in my voice too. I'm just not 100%, but I think I'll be okay. Yeah, a ton of news has been coming out recently, like a lot of Dreamcast related stuff, which is pretty cool. Other stuff that, you know, doesn't interest me per se, but interests me peripherally. Like, I don't really look into it much, particularly the states voting to get rid of net neutrality. Now, that doesn't affect me in Canada that much, but it could if the worst case scenario happens with the dissolving of net neutrality. Like, I probably won't be able to access some US sites as easily as I used to. But again, that's kind of the worst case scenario. I think, you know, even though this is all a possibility that internet could be throttled and things like that, I suspect that most ISPs are going to realize it's not in their best interest. Or I shouldn't say ISPs, because ISPs really don't have much to do with it, but cable companies and things like that. It's not going to be in their best interest to start segregating the internet. It just won't flow as fluidly. And there'll be that one provider that comes out and, you know, allows you access to everything, and they're probably going to win. So, you know, people, I think money will eventually talk, and, you know, if it does come down to the fact that they're going to start limiting access for certain people, that when they realize some of the big companies are losing their subscribers, that they're probably going to come about face and just sort of toe the line as it's always been. But again, I haven't really looked into it too much. I've watched those really bad videos from that Ajit, I can't remember the guy's last name, Ajit something. Again, I'm not American, so I don't particularly follow American politics that much. But yeah, it's a bad video. Holy smokes, I could not believe how smug that guy was. Basically treating every internet user as if they're just some sort of basement dwelling video gamer. Really kind of disrespectful. There's other things that you can do on the internet besides, you know, put up selfies and look at Instagram and play video games and things of that nature. I think it's going to impact people with small businesses the most, if it goes worst case scenario. Because if you're a person that uses, like, let's say like a lot of like FTP transfers and things like that, if you got throttled internet and you've got people that aren't able to, I don't know, like maybe they put a limit on it or something like that, a limit in terms of like who you can access through FTP, I mean, it can cause a lot of problems. But I can't possibly see it getting that bad. Like, that would cause so much frustration, that would cause so much chaos with the current internet that I can see people that are much more tech savvy than I am getting, you know, like, for lack of a better term, hacker type people getting together and just like deciding they've had enough and do something silly. You know, when you start messing around with the way the internet functions and the way the people are communicating, like, that's a touchy subject. They've already doxed the guy, which, you know, I guess if you're a person that has nefarious intent, that could mean something, but I don't really think there was much follow-up with it after that fact. I think they just mentioned it and then that was about it. So yeah, I don't think anything like that's going to happen in Canada. The big difference between Canada and the States is that about a year ago, internet was considered a basic human right. Like, it's basically like water now. Like, you can't deny somebody the access to the internet. In fact, it's broadband internet. They actually upgraded it. So what that meant was, about a year ago, they said they're going to do a rural expansion of all high-speed internet lines. And that's been rolling out gradually. So take, for instance, me growing up. Like, I grew up in an environment in very, very, very rural Ontario. So rural, in fact, like, I went to a one-room schoolhouse for a little bit. There was like 15 people that lived in my neighborhood. Like, it was super small. My other closest neighbors were several kilometers away. So when I lived up there, we couldn't even get things like cable television because they didn't have cable lines up there. Like, we had dirt roads, we didn't have street lights, anything like that. Like, it was very, very, very rural. And where my parents used to live, actually, and this was going back to like a year ago, like, they still couldn't get high-speed DSL where they lived, and they lived pretty close to a major town. Actually, they only lived about, maybe, I would say, what, 20 kilometers out of a major town. They couldn't even get high-speed DSL, much less high-speed cable. So yeah, it's no, I don't think you do. Actually, I think you might. Not sure, though. So yeah, because of that, I don't think it's going to really happen here in Canada. It's part of, I don't know if it made it to the charter or not, but once you make it a fundamental human right in Canada, it takes a lot to take that away. And why would you take that away? Canada's a little too progressive in some ways and like right on the money in others. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen in July when they roll out the legalization of marijuana. Now they have said they're going to push it ahead a little bit. I'm kind of excited. I don't really smoke that much pot, but I do enjoy it every once in a while. It depends on the blend, really. I'm kind of more of a fan of like the grapefruit type blends that don't quite get you paranoid, just kind of chill you out, but give you a little bit of pep. Like you're not going to pass out on a couch or anything like that. Really easy to access here in Toronto in particular. Like there's tons of shops that just sell it outright. It's not even legal yet. But again, nobody really cares. And in fact, there's a couple of good comedy clubs here in Toronto too, where you can just buy stuff and smoke stuff. There's a place at Broadview and Queen. It's called the Underground Cafe, and it's a very popular comedy store. It's been around for I think 11 years now, and for the last 11 years, you can just go in there, you can buy pot off the wall, you can go down to the comedy show, and you can just smoke it. So really, nobody cares about it. So making it legal is kind of a formality, and a lot of people have their medicinal marijuana cards as well. So not a huge deal. So how does this tie into internet? Well, like I say, I think in some ways I enjoy the way, I'm not overly upset with the way Canada is run. There are some things that need improving, but we generally push in, I'd say, a much more populist friendly direction. We don't try to go against the grain too much. We like to keep our people happy. That's why we're happy people. Okay. But again, the thing that's happening in the States right now with net neutrality, even though the FCC has decided, I think it was 3-2, that they're going to get rid of net neutrality, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to follow through, because then I guess you got to pass it to the Senate, and then the Senate brings it up to the final say is the president. Again, I really don't know much about American politics, but yeah, it's not a one and done. They don't just make the decision and then that's it. Okay. Let's see if we can buy some more dimates. We're gonna need a few. And maybe while we're here, we'll see if we can feed our mag a little bit too. Mag, give item, perfect. Give item, perfect. Dimate, excellent. And dimate, sweet. So for some reason I'm really not getting any sync with those. Interesting. I'd love to play on GameCube, but unfortunately GameCube and Dreamcast don't quite get along that well. Okay, so let's see what's going on. So are we doing mop up? I think mop up on very hard would be kind of a fun game to play. It's Griggs' room. Okay, cool. So we gotta wait for Griggs to start the game. Okay, sweet. Okay, we don't need the hit material. No prob, take your time, no prob. Okay, so while we're waiting, why don't I show you guys a couple of other things that are going on here too. So, like I said, I got this whole gang of pickups, and maybe what we'll do is we'll just kind of start over here. So here's something that I thought was really cool, and I've never really gotten into the series, but I couldn't say no when I found this out in the wild, and it is the DVD Blu-ray combo of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, the OVA collection. So, $4, at Value Village, not bad. I guess they didn't know what they had. This generally goes for over $100 online. It's been out of print for such a long time, and it's a really nice package. It's nice to have this on Blu-ray. I think it's because it didn't look like a Blu-ray, that it was a little bit cheaper, but even then, they just throw everything in a pile and sell DVDs for $3.99 and Blu-rays for $6.99. So anyway, it's pretty cool to have this. I'll probably watch that over the holidays. This was kind of fun. Now this is an old school Prima guide, and it's the Nintendo Games and Secrets. And actually, it's a pretty hefty book. A lot of this information, of course, you can find online pretty easily now, but kind of cool to have just a paper edition. You know, it's got a couple of graphics and stuff like that in it, which is kind of nice. And you can see the games on the back that it covers. It's a, I don't know, it's a nice little collector's piece, and it was only a few dollars, so nice thing to have in having the old collection. So I'm kind of happy about that. It is kind of funny because it says, where does it say it here? Oh yeah, this little splash thing on the back where it says it has a special controller section on the U-Force and Power Glove. As we all know, those are not the best controllers. Okay, we gotta wait for this, but it's still kind of fun to have them. I do have a Power Glove. I have all the sensors for it, and I have a couple of books for it as well. I use it every once in a while just to kind of like show off to people when they come by. Sometimes we'll play Rad Racer in 3D with the Power Glove, and that's kind of fun. I don't have a U-Force. I've always wanted one, but now that they're so expensive, I'll probably have to just wait until I can find one for dirt cheap. So, all right, let's go back to the game here. Okay. I'm a lieutenant of 32nd Works Division of Pioneer 2, Outer Space Task Force. Pioneer 2's army is ill-equipped, so we asked hunters to help out. I received Council's order to go to Regol to do some research, so I want your help. Before I send my second unit to sweep the underground ruins of monsters, the mission will start in 8 minutes. Finish your duties before the mission starts. I admit your soldiers are weak. Good luck. Okay, we're wasting time here, guys. We gotta jet to the forest and start killing all these guys before we run out of time. So if you haven't done mop-up before, it's pretty cool because you gain time depending on how fast you clear out a room and stuff like that. Hey, Merry Christmas. And yeah, I agree that there's a lot of misinformation going out about this whole net neutrality thing, and again, like, I haven't looked into it a ton. I've kind of looked into it very peripherally. To be honest, I try to stay away from the news, and the reason for that is I used to be one of those people that watched a lot of news YouTube channels like the Young Turks and stuff like that before they went totally off the rails, like back in the day when they were just sort of like hardcore liberals and stuff like that. But now there's these liberal SJW type personalities that hate the world, and it's just, I don't know, not good. I used to get just anxious. Like it seemed like the world was on fire all the time, and I realized it wasn't. Obviously, you know, like not everybody hates each other. You walk out the door, you go on the subway, everybody's fine. But there's that when you kind of, I shouldn't say live your life through the internet, but for me what it was like I'd watch a lot of this stuff at night, and then I'd go to bed and I'd have all these thoughts going through my head, and it would just keep me up and make me anxious for no reason whatsoever. And I just realized, like, I don't want to watch this. Like, I'll be blissfully ignorant and not pay attention to this kind of stuff. And you know, nothing bad's happened since I stopped watching it. Occasionally I'll watch the odd Alex Jones video just because the guy's a nutcase and makes me laugh, but I don't really treat that as news per se. I treat that more as sort of like I don't know, like you guys remember the National Enquirer magazines and everything, you know, it's more news entertainment, I guess. Okay, so we gained 30 seconds. Sweet. But yeah, I kind of tuned out on purpose. The thing is, though, with my full-time job, I'm supposed to pay a lot of attention to this kind of stuff, just for, I don't know, like, a lot of my work revolves around different social policies, but I just can't do it. Some of my coworkers, you know, they love that stuff, but I just can't bring myself to just kind of wrap my, like, yeah, it's not a good way to live. I don't think anybody's going to die on their deathbed and says they wish they were more angry at the world for feeling wronged against or whatever. And that's the thing, I think a lot of it has to do with just a lot of boredom. You know, it's fun to kind of pick teams and stuff like that and be on a side. And even though I haven't been to university in ages, and I understand campus life is a bit toxic nowadays. I mean, my work's fine. We're all just kind of older folks doing our thing. Like, we don't hate each other. We're from every corner of the world, you know? Like, it's not something we're overly concerned with, but we do try to keep ourselves familiar with what's going on, especially when we start hiring on younger people that may be coming from an environment where that was talked about quite a bit, and they might be expecting some sort of response from us for one reason or another, but to be quite honest, it just never comes up. As soon as you kind of enter the real world, you know, when you're out of school and all that kind of stuff, a lot of these ideals that you learn in university and high school, they kind of take a backseat. You know, you realize we're kind of all in this together. We're all sort of fucked. Can I get across there? No, I gotta go around. You know, retirement was a lie. There is no Freedom 65, Freedom 55, whatever you want to call it. You know, if you make no money, you'll generally do okay. If you make a lot of money, you're definitely gonna do okay. It's that middle class thing. You know, we're all kind of screwed. We're just gonna, until we're at that age where we retire, then we're gonna get a crappy pension where we can afford to live for maybe a year or two, and then we're gonna have to sell our house and move to an apartment, and then move to a home, and then die. And that's life. That's a wrap, folks. So enjoy it while you can. Okay, where are we going? Where are we going? And speaking of Alex Jones, so recently I tuned in because there was an old interview actually with Al Jorgensen of Ministry, and I don't know if you look at some of the other videos on my channel before I ended up putting them on private for the next little while, you'll notice I had a lot of concert bootlegs, and Ministry has always been, like, growing up, they were a very influential part of my life, especially. Like, you gotta take into consideration an era where there was really no internet, and everybody kind of had to find these bands and stuff for themselves, right? Nobody was telling you to listen to them, or at least not in the way that it is now, where you're kind of hit over the head with this kind of stuff. But yeah, I used to listen to the first couple of albums just non-stop, and you know, I've done some industrial music on my own, and I've seen them live a whole gang of times back in their heyday. Pardon me. So excellent band, and I read Al's autobiography, and that guy's a nutcase, and yeah, I caught them on their last few. The See You Late tour was the last tour that I saw them on, and that was back in the 2008, and that's when they were supposed to be retiring, and they didn't. They stuck around. They retired for a little bit, and then they ended up coming back around, I think 2 years later. Now, before they retired, the reason is that Mike, I can't remember how to pronounce his last name, Scarshi, I think it is, the guitarist, he died of a heroin overdose. And he was Al's, you know, best friend, basically, and he took it really hard. So he wanted to retire Ministry, didn't want to go forward with Ministry anymore. So that's fair enough. Put out the autobiography. It was an interesting read for what it was. Sometimes I like to have a little bit of mystery to my idols, and unfortunately that removes a lot of that mystery, but this way, yep, that's the way I think we go. But after they retired, they put out two really good albums before they retired. They put out Rio Grande Blood, and what was the other one? It had this track called Let's Go on it. They were both really solid albums. They retired, then put out these two bullshit albums. Relapse, which was just garbage, and they put out, what was the other one after Relapse? I can't even remember the title of it. They were just such terrible albums. I bought them. I bought the deluxe editions, and I sold them because they are terrible albums. And part of the problem is, if you read the autobiography of Al Jorgensen of Ministry, you know, he lived a fairly rock star lifestyle. You know, when he wrote those albums back in the 80s and 90s, that guy was running off a steady diet of just cocaine and heroin, just speedballing it, just hyper fixated and focused on his music and his musical vision. And it was really interesting. It was a really interesting book for people that have done sampling or worked with old samplers in the past, and understanding how he more or less, he didn't create it, because there was like the Fairlight that came out in the early 80s, which was more or less one of the first samplers available. It cost about, I think it was about $30,000 when it was released. And it had a full keyboard and a computer, and you could wave at it with a special pen that you could touch the screen. It was a really cool sampler back in the day. But what he would do, if you listen to those first couple albums, like Land of Rape and Honey, for instance, fantastic album, excellent album. The other ones that he put out before that, yeah, the pop albums, they were not so great. They're good for what they are. I mean, Every Day is Halloween will always kind of have that place in my heart for what it is, but overall, they're not great influential albums. But when the Land of Rape and Honey came out, that's where it really started to take off. And if you listen to the samples and you think about how it recorded, like if you're familiar with recorded music, nowadays it's just so easy. You get a DAW, digital audio workstation, you record all your instruments into it digitally, and you just edit everything digitally. It's super simple, super easy. You want a sample, you just grab a WAV file, you drop it wherever you want it, and you can manipulate it digitally, and you can do whatever you want. You can tweak it in every which way, and if you don't like it, you can just open up the original file and delete what you did, and you're off to the races again. But back in the day, when it was kind of like the wild west of how you do this kind of stuff, what he would do actually is he would work on a 4-track recorder, and he would use tape loops, and he would actually use a tape splicing machine. Now, if you haven't seen what those are, like, tape splicers are basically little... Oh shit, did we win? Wow, I think we lost. There's like a little razor blade on a tray, and you just find the part that you want to cut out and join, and you cut out the sections you don't want, and you put it together with tape. And he would do that to sync up his audio loops with the music on the 4-track. And it took him forever, but the guy was just like, again, like just OCD about it. He was hopped up on drugs. He would just spend a week just like working with a razor blade, trying to line up these tracks and everything like that. So pretty amazing. He said he got sober-ish back in like 2012, I guess it was. But really all it meant was he started drinking a lot more and not using hardcore drugs. And the albums really reflected it. Okay, we're going to pause 1 second and come back to that thought. Wanna try a new quest? Griggs, start a team. Okay, cool. So let's follow Griggs again. So it's unfortunate. I feel like Al Jorgensen should have had a manager come up to him and say, listen, you've got to do one of 3 things with Ministry. So Ministry is a viable brand, and your current music does not reflect that brand, and in fact it's going to diminish that brand. You could still sell your back catalog, t-shirts, all that kind of fun stuff, but the current music that you're putting out is not going to help. So either do one of 3 things. Either retire Ministry rather, and don't do any more music. You can make music but release it under a different name. Or the third option is continue writing for Ministry, give up the booze, and unfortunately, for the sake of art, for the sake of brand, go back to speedballing, heroin, and coke, because that's the only way you're going to get that sound. And again, like, that sounds cruel, but that's the only way you're able to capture that magic again. So anyways, why am I talking about Al Jorgensen? Well, so I listened to his thing on Alex Jones, and then I found out, hey, Ministry has another album out. So this will be the 3rd album since they've retired. And there's a single called Antifa, and it is horrible. It is so pandering, so lazy, so sloppy. It's not that tight Ministry sound that I liked from like Psalm 69 and, you know, The Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste and all this kind of stuff. It is just terrible. Okay, I'm gonna pause 1 second again. We could try. What do you guys think would be cool. Can we do CC on VH? So that's the Christmas Catastrophe on Very Hard. So anyways, yeah, I was listening to it and I was just like, oh my god, this is terrible. This is horrible stuff. It makes me really, really dislike the band. Okay. Is it available on VH? So we're gonna see if we can do Christmas Catastrophe on Very Hard. I don't think it is. Okay, Griggs is gonna find out. Okay, cool. So yeah, I listened to it and I just was shaking my head. I was like, this is so sad. I can't believe that it's come down to this. I just wish the guy would stop making music altogether. Like, he's done. It's just so sad. Like, and I guess it's not being released under his label anymore. I guess it's on Nuclear Blast, and you know, Nuclear Blast, it is what it is. It's a label. It's a heavy metal label. I find it puts out the most generic music possible. So the production sounds really boring. Everything about it sounds boring, right? So anyways, that's it. That's my thoughts on good old Mr. Ministry and Al Jensen. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I did a cover of Dirty Epic by Underworld. I used to listen to that song all the time in the 90s, before I really started getting into electronic music. And yeah, it's always stuck with me for a while. I've only seen them perform once live, and it was a pretty cool little experience. They didn't play Dirty Epic, but for me, that's like my defining Underworld song. I think a lot. It was the one right before Cowgirl on Dub No Bass with My Headman, and it's a fantastic track. It's about 11 minutes long, and if you go, you know, I'll promote my channel, I guess, a little bit more. If you go back on the channel, I did a live performance on a rig that I had at the time, which was a pretty intense electronica rig. So I didn't do anything with there was no computer sampling or anything. Everything was done with old hardware. And the main brain that I used to program things with was an old MC505 groove box. And I used that as my MIDI tracker. So I'd compose the MIDI stuff, and then it would have, what did it have? It had 8 channels. And I could send, was it 8 or 6? I can't remember exactly. It's been such a long time. I had to take down the setup after I ended up having my daughter, because she needed the space. But anyways, and what I would do is I would send each one of those channels out to a different instrument. So sometimes I'd send it out to a sampler, other times it would be other synthesizers or drum machines and stuff like that. And I had this rig built up around 3 electronic drum kits. And yeah, it got pretty intense. I only did one performance live with it at this bar called The Cavern here in Toronto, Ontario. It was a lot of fun. I got a lot of good feedback, but I didn't really follow through with it. I just didn't have much time. There's a recorded, that performance is recorded, and it's on the YouTube channel as well, if you want to check it out. It's got actually me doing Dirty Epic live there as well, and I don't know, it was a lot of fun. I ran around with some people that I met during that time, but again, it was just one of those things where if this was 10 years ago, I would have been all over it, but other life things caught up with me, unfortunately. It doesn't mean that I'm completely done. I have been breaking out my, not my MC505 actually, but I've got a Yamaha RM1X groove box, which is a lot more powerful. You don't have to worry about things like the RAM sort of crashing and stuff like that. It's got some really nice Yamaha synth sounds too. It uses the same synthesizer as the Yamaha CS. Oh, for fuck's sakes! The CS1X. And uh-oh, can you bring me back, Griggs? Derp, derp, derp. Okay, maybe our friend Bones can bring us back. Sweet. Okay, great, we took it out. Which uses the same, it's basically like a Yamaha CS1X in a box. So you use it as a sampler and stuff like that. Anyways, been playing around with that a little bit lately. Also been breaking out my Volcas because I've kind of been encouraging my daughter to play around with them a little bit. See if she gets a kick out of them. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I'm getting back into these things. It's taken a little while just because I'm sort of taxed for time and space and stuff. But, you know, lots of time to kind of figure these things out. So yeah, I built it around 3 electronic drum kits, and then I actually had an electronic drum kit built into it as well. It was an old Roland TD7. I ended up pairing that with, or linking that over MIDI to the groove box. So it was just reading a clock, just reading a MIDI clock. And what I would do is I would run MIDI through with the clock, so it was getting the clock time. Actually, sorry, the way I patched it through is I had a Roland TR-505 drum machine, and I would do some basic sort of like house hits, like doof 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 on that. I would send that MIDI information, so I'd send the clock to the TR-505, I'd send the MIDI information to the TD7 because the synthesizer on that sounded a lot better. Send that out to a Roland SE50 effects unit, and that would give me sort of like a bass, like a really tight sort of kick sound and a snare sound. And then what I would do over the top of that was I would do fills with like tom pads and stuff like that. It was a really cool rig. I really liked it, but again, it was really big, and I needed to make space for my current life situation, and that's okay too. Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at the chat here, and somebody brought up a couple of different Ministry tracks going back to Ministry, and yeah, I think if you're a person of a certain age like me, Jesus Built My Hot Rod, that was probably the first track that really got me into them. And it's funny, if you read the Al Jorgensen autobiography, he talks about creating that track, and Gibby Haynes did the vocals on it. So if you actually know who Gibby Haynes is, so Gibby Haynes is the lead singer for a band called Butthole Surfers, and they did a song on there, I think it was it Locust Abortion Technician? I can't remember exactly, called Some Dispute Over T-Shirt Sales, and that has the same vocal track as Jesus Built My Hot Rod. Now, how Al describes it is Gibby Haynes came into the studio, he really wanted to do a song with Gibby Haynes, and was just high on everything under the sun, and he ended up just basically mumbling into the microphone, and then Al chopped it up in post and put together Jesus Built My Hot Rod. How much of that is true, it's hard to say, but I will say this. I've seen Ministry multiple times play live. Fantastic. Like, back in their heyday, they were a loud, aggressive band. They were great. I've only seen the Butthole Surfers perform once live, and I gotta admit, it was probably one of the best ways to see them. So the good thing about them is that they've always been an original lineup. They haven't replaced anybody except the drummers. And on the, I think it was a full reunion tour, it was about 8 years ago now, they actually played with both drummers. And I wish I had video for that, but unfortunately this was back in the time where taking video at concerts was still frowned upon, and I brought in oh, for fuck's sakes. Okay, we're going to change our weapon. And we are going to switch to the... Yes. Did we get him? We must have. Okay, sweet. Okay, let's fuel up here. Sweet. Yeah, so anyways, I ended up getting my camera confiscated. It was an old Sony Handycam. It was quite large, but Took really good video. At the time it was like 1080i, I think it was. But it had a really nice lens on it. Really good for bootlegging concerts. I only was able to bootleg a few shows with that particular camera. And I did like the 1080i because it was high definition, but with the interlaced look natively, it kind of gave that old school VHS look that I always kind of enjoyed for concert bootlegs. But, you know, inevitably 1080p was just the standard, and if you watch 1080i and you're used to 1080p, you can get quite frustrated. So I ended up upgrading to the Kodak ZI-8, which kind of looks more or less like a cell phone. And what I would do is I would put it in a BlackBerry case, so when I went to concerts, people didn't confiscate it. And now when I go to concerts, I've actually stopped quite a bit because I don't like, you know, I'm part of the problem, or I was part of the problem. Back when I used to bootleg shows, I was pretty much the only one doing it, but now of course when you go to a show, everybody's just got their cell phone up in the air, and it really takes away from the experience. I liked it when I was kind of like the only one doing it, and that's not because I wanted the credit for bootlegging the show, but I don't want to look at the back of somebody's... One concert I went to go see Pig, which is Raymond Watts of KMFDM, perform once, and somebody had an iPad up in the air recording right in front of me, which I was like, oh, this is too much. Nowadays, like, I don't even need to bring a camera. I've got a Google Pixel 2 XL with 128 gigabytes of RAM, so that camera looks fantastic. Or RAM, sorry, memory rather, storage, and yeah, the camera on that phone is fantastic. So you can easily bootleg a show. The sound might be a little crunchy, but you know, for what it is, it looks fantastic. So next time I go to a gig, I'll probably use that. I probably won't bootleg the whole show. I've really just been enjoying the moment rather than spending too much time concentrating on a good bootleg, which, you know, I enjoy it more. I can't remember who said it, but I think I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about concerts and how even if you try to record it, it's never going to feel the same as actually being present. And it is very true. All the concerts I've been to where I've never recorded it seem much more vivid than the ones where I have, you know, instant access to that memory via some sort of bootleg that I shot. You know, I think, for instance, like one of the first really big gigs that I went to was probably back in 2000. Actually, no, I shouldn't say that. I think it was 98. I saw Alice Cooper, which was kind of cool. But I saw in 2000 Iron Maiden. This is when they just reunited for the first time, and this is when they had all three guitarists, and they had Bruce Dickinson back on vocals, and it was fantastic. It was from the Brave New World tour, and Halford, he wasn't with Judas Priest at that time. He was playing with his solo band, and Queensryche was as well, and it was a fantastic gig. It was Detroit, Michigan, at the Pine Knob Amphitheater. And yeah, I've got such vivid memories of that. I was also fairly young, and I told myself, I was like, soak up everything you can. I tried everything to preserve every little bit of memory from that concert. I wasn't really, you know, I never really started drinking until I was about 25, probably 25, 26. So I wasn't even drinking at that show. I was like, no, if I drink, it's going to taint my memory of the gig. So yeah, there's a couple of shows like that. Like also one that I'll never forget is the first time seeing Dio perform live, and he was performing with Heaven and Hell, which at that point was basically, if you don't know who Dio is, so Ronnie James Dio, he used to perform in a couple of really big bands. He performed in this band called Elf, which didn't really get a lot of attention, but did catch the attention of Richie Blackmore, who is from Deep Purple, and he ended up doing Richie Blackmore's Rainbow. And Ronnie did the vocals for 3 of those albums, which are fantastic. I suggest listening to a couple of like tracks like Catch the Rainbow and stuff like that. Just fantastic music. And then after that, ended up becoming the new vocalist for Black Sabbath. And they released a couple of really good albums that I think are highly underrated, like Mob Rules, for instance. That's a highly underrated album. And Heaven and Hell. Now, I don't think that's underrated by any means, but I don't think enough people know about it. Like, that is a fantastic rock album. The title track, everything on it. There's like maybe, how many tracks are on that? 10? And I think there's possibly only two that I don't like. Everything else is fantastic. Mob Rules is another really good one. You know, and the thing I like about Dio doing Black Sabbath is that I feel like he respects that material much more than Ozzy did. Ozzy obviously became a little bit of a, you know, parody of himself when he started doing that stupid Osbourne show back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And you know, I think his image kind of suffered from it. The only times I used to like it when you'd watch him kind of being a goofball is like back in the day. There's this documentary. Well, not back in the day. You can watch it anytime you want, but it's called The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2. And if you like heavy metal and rock music and you haven't seen that documentary, I suggest finding a copy. You can get the DVD for like $17 on Amazon. It's dirt cheap. But they interview a whole bunch of people during the heyday of the metal scene. Now, there's 3 parts to this whole Decline of Western Civilization series. There's part 1, which focused on the punk rock movement. It's got some cool bootleg video of like Black Flag and things like that. And then you've got part 2, which is the hair metal movement in the 80s. And then you've got part 3, which is the grunge movement. Now, part 1 is good for what it is. It opened the door for part 2. Part 2 is the best by far, and part 3 is not very good at all. But I suggest watching part 2 if you like that kind of music. It's fantastic. Yeah, so Bones just mentioned that there's an Ozfest Fred Durst signed Dreamcast that floats around every once in a while. So during Ozfest, I guess it was in '99, they were promoting the Dreamcast, and I guess they figured they promoted at Ozfest. And Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit was a big fan of the Dreamcast back in the day, and I'm really excited for it. And there's an autographed Fred Durst Dreamcast that comes up for sale every once in a while. I think there might be multiples. Don't quote me on it, but it goes for quite a bit, and I have no interest in it whatsoever. But I guess if you're a collector, one of those things that you're going to need to own at some point. Okay, where are we here? Sorry, I was just looking to the side here just to catch up on the conversation. Games that I play online besides PSO. Good question. Now, at the moment, I'm not really playing that many games online. A few games that I did like to play online were primarily with my Nintendo 3DS. So, Mario Kart 7, I loved playing that. Diablo 3 was probably the last one I got really serious into, but I think I've mentioned that in a few other streams that I've really lost a lot of love for that game, just the amount of cheating that goes on in it, and it's really hard to find a room where people aren't cheating, unfortunately. So kind of lost a lot of love with that game, but did put quite a few hours into it. And at the moment, I don't really have a great computer to play newer online games, so I'm sort of limited to older games where the online functions are no longer available. Or games that might be like, if it's a multiplayer game, it was probably designed for like local couch co-op type stuff. So to be honest, I'm really not playing that much. I have thought about revisiting a couple of my old PS3 titles to see what's going on online, but again, just not really having the opportunity to sit at a console as much as I used to back in the day. I pretty much just stick to playing with my Dreamcast, and that's pretty much it. So, okay, there's a hit material. Is that available still? I'll take that one. Okay, cool. Let me just feed my mag while I'm thinking about it. Okay, we can't. Well, let's use some of these items so we can free up a little bit of space. So, that being said, I am looking into getting a Switch at some point. Probably, part of me wants to get it this year, but I think I'm going to wait till the second version comes out, because you know there's going to be a second version. I know it's only going into its first year. It feels like it's been out for much longer. But there has to be a version that comes out that's probably going to have a better battery life, probably going to have a glass screen, hopefully, or at least a screen that manages not to get scratched as easily, because from what I understand, the plastic screen it's not like an epidemic that is prone to scratching, but it can be scratched. I've also heard if it sits in the docking cradle for too long, it can fold, which kind of sucks. But yeah, it's at the moment pretty much just Dreamcast, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because there's a lot of really good online Dreamcast games at the moment. We were playing Pod the other day. I played a little bit of Monaco online, but I wasn't streaming, just to kind of get a feel for the game. The community has really been kind of blowing up lately, so there's a lot more people that want to play online and end up going into these rooms at times where people aren't necessarily always available, and maybe aren't aware of the different forums that are available to people, as well as the like things like Dreamcast Live and stuff like that. So yeah, just kind of a long answer, but ultimately, yeah, it's pretty much just Dreamcast at the moment. I also am looking into modding my PS2 at some point when I can find a proper hard drive for it, so I can run games with a soft mod directly off the hard drive, and just run to third-party servers for some certain games that are on, like Battlefront 2 for the PS2, which is a fun game. I never really got into the PS2 back in the day, but I am interested in revisiting a couple titles, but I also don't want to collect for the system so much either. Trying to stay away from collecting as much hard media as possible, because I've accumulated quite a bit. I know you can't really see it from here, but yeah, my basement is running out of shelf space, and unfortunately I'm starting to do things like double up on my shelves, which isn't good, and my Super Nintendo collection isn't even visible. Actually, my Atari and my Super Nintendo collection isn't even visible anymore, because I just don't have them on display. I don't have any shelf space at all, and they're just sort of sitting in boxes waiting for me to build a shelf. PS4 collects dust. Yep, so does my PS3. I just use it for Netflix. And that's pretty much the reason I never got into an Xbox One or a PS4, was because I knew even back then I wasn't going to be able to give it the attention that a console like that needs in order to be fully experienced. I think the days are gone where I can sit down and sort of lose myself for a few hours at a time in a game on a console. The only way I'm going to be able to play games is on the go, and I showed you guys maybe about a month ago my modded PSP with all the different emulators and stuff like that on it, and I've been playing a lot of that. I put in about 20 hours into Final Fantasy VII, and I forgot how great of a game that was. I've never actually completed it. I've only made it to the end of disc 2 before I either lost interest or moved on. So yeah, I'm pretty jacked to actually have it so I can play it on the go and hopefully be able to win it for the first time in my life. Now, I've seen the ending, so I kind of know how it goes, but it would be really nice to just complete it on my own. So yeah, that's like my main gaming console, and the funny thing is that you can't play it online anymore. I can't believe how effective custom firmware is for the PlayStation Portable. Originally when I started getting it, I was like, oh, I don't want to collect all these different UMDs and stuff like that to play the UMD games, because I know there's a couple of really cool titles out there. And then I realized with custom firmware you don't even need that. Like, I bought a 128 gig micro SD card, bought a what's it called there, a memory stick duo adapter, and with custom firmware you can just load the ISO images of your PSP games on it and you're good to go. So that's what I've been doing. I mean, I guess some people might look at that as illegal, as it were, but I mean, nobody's using that system anymore, so... Okay, can I use a telepipe? Because I am out of everything. Okay. TPing for supplies. Alright, cool. Yeah, I think some of the titles that I'm kind of excited for Switch are, well, I know Skyrim has been released. That was a game that I was really interested in playing on the go, although I've heard that mixed things about it. But I imagine it's fine. Like, I think people are probably picking it apart or being a little bit too overly critical. Or at least I'm assuming they're being overly critical. So yeah, that was one of the games that I was primarily interested in at the time. We're gonna need to take out more money, guys. And Super Mario Odyssey looks like a lot of fun. Actually, all the games, like the major AAA titles for the Switch, look like a ton of fun. So, I don't know. I'm pretty excited to get one at some point. I just don't know when that'll be. Probably, like I said, I'm probably gonna wait for the next version of it to come out before I dive head on in. The good thing about the Switch is, a lot of the titles that I'm interested in, I'm not worried about the titles of the games going like out of print anytime soon. I think most of the games that I'm interested in are going to be available for quite some time, and also a lot of the games that I'm interested in playing, they're probably going to be pretty cheap at places like GameStop in the near future when people start actually selling that stuff off. Okay, let's load up on our Trimates, and we don't need anything else. Cool. Okay, let's get rid of our cash. Actually, let's go to the... Let's just go to the medic quick, heal up, and then we'll go back to our game. Sweet. So yeah, that's probably what I'm going to be playing the most online. I did get, like I said, I've got the Google Pixel 2 XL as well, which is a mind-blowing phone. And you can put emulators on it, but I understand, I haven't tried it yet because I really haven't had a reason to. And it's got a lot of really good games, I guess you can download for free through this shop because it's an Android phone. Lose my words here. Android phone. And you can pair a Bluetooth controller and stuff like that to it. So I might play around with that and see if there's any good online games. But, you know, my experience with mobile games is that they're all pretty much the same. A lot of tower defense type nonsense. And, you know, they lose my interest quite quickly, to be honest. I think the most time I ever put into one mobile game was probably the first run of Plants vs. Zombies, because it was 99 cents for the iPhone. And when it originally was released, it was not, you know, a microtransaction based game. You could actually play and win it and advance throughout the game simply by putting in hours. But when I ended up having to reset my phone, I can't remember why, I lost all my data on it. When I tried to play it again, I noticed that the only way you were able to get anywhere in that game is if you paid for microtransactions, and that's when I lost my interest. And I noticed that a lot of those games are like that. Like, I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. It's all pretty much the same. A lot of microtransactions and a lot of similar style games, like a lot of runners and tower defense style games. Did we find letter 2 yet? I think I only found the first letter. I hope I didn't pass it. Oh, good. Alright, sweet. I thought maybe we ended up passing it and then maybe I zipped back to town or something like that and I missed it. But speaking of like older consoles, I'm sure that you've all been well educated in the Atari box, so I've been following that since it... Oh shoot, I thought I had more moon atomizers. Damn. I have to get more of those. So even though I knew I was never really going to buy one, I have been following it on the mailing list, and I was interested to see what was going on with pre-orders. And you know, everybody's right. It is just another Coleco Chameleon type situation. And if you forget what that's all about, basically it's just a third-party company that has licensed the name that's going to be released, that tried to release an all-in-one system under the Coleco name. And you probably, if you're watching this channel, you know video games. I don't have to tell you what you don't already know. But they tried to put it on Indiegogo, didn't have a working prototype, made a prototype with a SNES Mini in a clear shell, and people found that out or no, not a clear shell, sorry, that was the first time. And then in the clear shell it was like an old video card or something silly like that. But anyways, it sounds like this is kind of the way the Atari box is going as well. Similar story to the Ouya, just, you know, there's no need for it. It's the market's already oversaturated as it is, and there's plenty of ways to get little emulator boxes. So I don't anticipate, they were going to do a release. They ended up saying that they're postponing the release, or the announce, I should say, on Indiegogo. And as of now, there's really been no update. So I suspect it's just going to be vaporware. It's just going to fizzle off into the ether, and you're never going to see anything come of it, which is not a shame by any means. The console itself looks cool, but it's nothing that somebody couldn't 3D print and just have you mount a Raspberry Pi in and just use that as an emulator box. Like, what kind of first-party games are they going to release on a moderately powered micro PC? I can't see it being that impressive unless they've got some really unique game titles, which I doubt they do. It's probably going to be similar to the Ouya, where it was just like flash titles and that was it. So it looks like that's probably not going to happen. And again, that's not a bad thing. It's not like Atari is dying. It's just like, this is just Atari in name alone. It has nothing to do with the actual like history or legacy, and it's not being endorsed by any original people. It's just people that license the name and they're using it to make their own products. So are we warping? Let's just jump in the warp and see what happens. For some reason I feel like we skipped a letter, which would really suck. I guess we're gonna find out. Nope, we can't go there. Okay. Oh my lord, this is gonna be quite painful. So we're playing very hard, and I think a lot of it... Oh, come on. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Launch there. Oh, I had that escape doll. Okay, cool. Okay, don't take my money. I guess I really don't have any money to take. Yes, very interested in Dreamcast Discord. Been getting lots of links to that lately. Again, this last couple of weeks has kind of been a bit of a gong show for me, so I haven't been able to follow up, but I am going to look into that, and I'm also going to see about a way of patching that into the stream if people are comfortable with me doing that, which I think will be kind of fun, because otherwise you're just going to hear me talking to other people that are playing online, and you're not going to be able to hear what the conversation is on the other end. But yeah, Discord for sure. I know a lot of people have corrected me, because originally I thought Discord was some sort of like Skype style channel, but it's its own entity, and you know, I'm just not hip to what you kids are doing nowadays on the old interwebs. So I was not aware that it was a separate gaming specific chat service. So yes, I will definitely be getting into Discord. Hopefully I can get it set up over the March, or not the March break, rather the Christmas break. I know it won't take long to set up, it's just I haven't really gotten around to it, to just kind of figure out how it works and who I'll be talking with and how I'm able to actually patch that information into the stream. So when that happens, trust me, it'll make some games more interesting than others, that's for sure. Try weak, strong, strong. Okay, let's do that. So we're gonna try a different attack. Weak, strong, strong. Well, it seems to... Oh, let's get out of here. What are we doing? Alright, well, we'll try that attack technique for a little while and see if it gets us any further ahead. Really, all I've been doing is doing the strong, strong, strong attacks and sort of staying away from my special attack for the most part. Doesn't really do too much, but I think actually I'm going to switch my weapon out anyways. This is getting a little bit much. Here, let's see if this helps out at all. Bang. Okay, sweet. Now we're cooking with gas. Why were we not using this before? Oh, cool. I had no idea for OBS there is a Discord overlay. That's awesome. See, all these things I'm learning. And I guess really the only other big things that are coming up for Dreamcast news too, sorry, going back to that, I'm sort of jumping all over the conversation, is there's a new game that looks actually like a lot of fun. It's an action platformer. Not Xenocide or Xenosaga? I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it looks like a lot of fun. I might actually back it. It's not terribly expensive. It's like £35 for a physical Dreamcast copy that's going to be mil CD. And I can't remember if it's done by Senile Team or not, but the developer's been really upfront with the progress, and it looks like it's going to come out. It's a Kickstarter project at the moment. Pardon me. And it, I think it needed $30,000, and I believe it's up to 60, and there's 18 days to go. So if you want to back that up, I'm gonna have to look at what it's called exactly, but yeah, it looks like a really cool new indie project that's come out. So, oh, for fuck's sakes. So I'll probably be getting that, but first I want to get a copy of Flashback. I do got a couple of dollars in my PayPal kitty, which is sort of nice. I ended up selling a couple things recently, and yeah, that game looks like the version of this game. Now, I've played Flashback before on PC, but I haven't played it on its other console iterations, and from what I understand, this is sort of like a mix of everything. It's going to be the best of Flashback all in one Dreamcast copy. So because of that, I'm very, very interested in seeing how it turns out. From what I understand, they took some different elements of each game. Oh, Mood Analyzer, definitely can use that because we're all dying left and right. Different cutscenes and stuff like that from different games, different versions of the game, and mixed it all into one sort of perfect ultimate package. Now, from what I also understand is that because it's being used, like some of the full motion video and stuff like that is being pulled from different sources. Shoot, can I go back? Fuck. You know what? There is a telepipe, so let's do that. Let's just go back to Pioneer and then we'll come right back. Because it's being pulled from different sources, resolution is a bit of an issue, but I imagine it'll be streamlined, so you probably won't even notice. Okay, let's run right back to the game. Let's just find that red pipe. Bones is... Uh-oh. Where's our pipe? Where's our pipe? Where's our pipe? Pipe, please. Could have sworn I saw a pipe. Okay, sweet. Okay, did I lose my weapon? I hope not. Dang, that would suck. Okay, good. We still got it. Now, did we lose anything else? Oh, that's, I think, our Meseta that we left behind, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, let's just unload on these guys and take them out. Yeah, this is much nicer. I don't know why I was using the Yasminkoff earlier. Well, when we were just using sort of individual, like we were just kind of killing enemies one-on-one and we didn't have so many enemies filling the screen all at one time. It was a bit nicer, but... Did I see an extra special weapon here? No way. Bit easier to use, but now that it's become so intense, we kind of gotta spread out our shot a bit. Okay, anything that we can use here? Not really. Okay, one of these walls I believe you can go through. Don't quote me on it. This one? No. I think we're pretty much at the end of the quest, aren't we? Okay, here's the warp. Now where's the warp gonna take us? Okay, is this part 2? Alright, sweet. I knew it. Okay, we gotta go find those 2 and 3. I knew we missed a couple. Oh, that's alright, guys. Okay, so we're gonna backtrack a little bit until we can find these 2 letters that we missed. Okay, what do we got here? Oh yeah, this won't... only on unlocks on alt. So you can only unlock that when you play the ultimate mode. You can't play in just regular mode. Xenocrisis, that's it. Thank you for correcting me. There's really no links, but I can provide you with sort of more detailed, now are we going to Pioneer 2? Okay. A detailed description of sort of what I got. If you watch the video, I guess you can kind of write things down. I think the hardest thing you're going to find, and you're not committed to the Atlona HD 500, is a really decent VGA upscaler. The one that I have is kind of the best that you can get. Are we going back to find them? I'm good. And a decent capture card, so I use the Elgato, but you don't have to use the Elgato. What else do you need? Decent VGA box. You can use the Acura HDMI box, but unfortunately the HDMI signal is not accepted by the Elgato natively. You're gonna have to run it through an HDMI upscaler, which is kind of counterintuitive when you think about it. So you're gonna have to run it through like a FrameMeister or something like that. Now there are alternatives. I can't remember the names of them exactly, to the Atlona HD 500. If you decide to, only 2 parts of San Jose left, blah blah blah. Okay. I feel like we should probably find them. Maybe I can convince everybody else to do it. So yeah, it could cost you quite a bit of money if you decide to go that route. But again, if you get like a decent VGA box, I use the Hayes, although I've never seen a difference between any VGA box. and you get yourself a decent upscaler. So the Atlona that I have is kind of the best. It's a bit overkill for what it is, but it does the trick perfectly. And if you can find one for cheap, I think I paid $150 for mine, which is, believe it or not, a very good price for that particular device. You know, you're set. But as long as you've got something that kind of upscales and you have a bit of options to correct like the position of the actual screen, because the way the Dreamcast works is a bit weird. Like the resolution isn't a true 1080p resolution. Are we going back to find them? Okay, we're going back to mine 1. Perfect. It's a little bit smaller, and because of that, the Elgato doesn't recognize it as a 480p signal. So yeah, the only thing I could suggest is, if you want to go the route that I went, I use a Logitech 920 camera right now for streaming. I use a Rode NT2A mic, a condenser mic. I run that all through a Scarlett Focusrite 6i6. You don't necessarily need all this stuff, but I like production, like music production, in addition to doing the streaming, so that's why I have the Focusrite. You can easily get away with just using a Blue Yeti, which I've used in the past, and I think it works fine. In fact, I kind of question why I go through the extra setup when I really only need my Blue Yeti. And after you have that, what else do you need? OBS does everything else for you, so you don't really have to worry about any kind of pay DAW type software. At one point I was using Vegas Video, but you obviously don't need that if you're using OBS. What else might you need? Some people choose to play with headphones. I never really got into that. Oh, sweet, we can go through this door. Oh, this is nothing actually. And the headphones that I do use when I'm trying to monitor the sound are the Audio-Technica MX50X, which I really enjoy. Some people don't like them, but I find them great. They're not totally flat headphones, but they've got a little bit of boost in them in certain ways, and they're good for mixing, because I find that they don't really have a whole ton of mid-range, but they're not perfect for mixing. They are great for music. I think that they add a lot of... I think it adds a lot of... what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of depth and separation to the different instruments, especially if you've got music that's separated really nicely. Like, for instance, I like listening to certain progressive rock, progressive metal albums that are really like insanely overproduced, like Porcupine Tree stuff, with the Steven Wilson, the Opeth stuff, where if you have decent headphones, you hear sounds in those albums that you wouldn't hear otherwise. Same thing goes for speakers. Oh, did we get this one? No. Okay. So we're going on to find 2 and 3. And that's pretty much about it. Like, I mean, you really don't need that much. You can get away with just getting a gaming headset to do the mic if you really want to, but the sound quality of the mic is going to sound like a gaming mic, which is kind of, you know, I don't particularly like that sound, but some people do. I do have a decent pair of, who was it again? It was the PlayStation Elite headphones that are really nice for gaming when I was playing online on my PlayStation 3, but I didn't particularly like them as a headset for gaming. Or sorry, a headset for streaming rather. Gaming, obviously awesome. Streaming, not so much. Oh, come on, for fuck's sakes. You know what? I actually don't use the Elgato HD60. I use the Elgato Game Capture HD, and the reason for that, I probably should have known better. The reason for that is because I wanted to still be able to pick up a composite and S-video signal, and you can't get that with the HD60. You can only get that with the HD Game Capture. But I've already got a fairly decent composite device, and I don't know why I felt the need to... Oh shoot, what just happened? Bones, where'd you go, brother? Okay, let's get out of here. Let's go to that door that needs to... Okay, follow me. Let's go, guys. Let's go. What was I going to say? Yeah, so I didn't get the HD60 because even though it records at 60 frames per second, the Game Capture HD only records at 30 frames per second. I wanted to have that composite and S-video capability for doing things like recording VHSs, but I already had, like I said, I already had a capture card for that, so I should have probably just got the HD60 instead of this. So if you are going to get a capture setup, I suggest the HD60 over the HD Game Capture HD. But again, it all depends on what your budget's like too. I've been sort of building this rig over the last, I don't know, it's been like 2 years or so, and a lot of it has also been because I had a fairly decent music production setup to begin with. So a lot of the recording equipment that I had wasn't purchased specifically for game capture. It was actually produced more for production. Okay, let's go through this way. Oh, here we go. You get it? Sweet. We got him. Okay, so I think we got all 4. Back to Pioneer. Okay, I'm going to launch a pipe. Okay, we all launched pipes. Sweet. So now we want to talk to that one guy. Unfortunately, we can't do the side quest with it, but that's okay. Okay, so let's talk to... What was this guy's name again? I can't quite remember. But this is how we complete the quest. Unfortunately, we're not playing on Ultimate, so we can't do the side quest, but that's okay. Alright, UGB, you got all the parts to Santa's list. Thank you so much. Now the children of Pioneer 2 can have Christmas. You really are a hero. I feel you deserve more money for your efforts. Here, maybe this can be of use for you. Take whichever item you like most. Cool, let's grab some more power material. Awesome. Sweet. Okay, and 30 photon points. Well, that's not bad. Cool. Merry Christmas to you too, lady. And we're done. Alright, so we're going to boot back to Pioneer. We'll wait for everybody else to come back as well. And we'll see what everybody else chose as their goodies. But in the meantime, let's just go to this screen here. Alright, while we're waiting for people to come back, let me show you some other cool little items. This thing here, I mostly got because I fully intend to resell it, I'll be honest. But it's a Gigapet. And you might think, why would you have this stupid little keychain? Well, it's like those Tamagotchi things from back in the day. And I know that they sell for like 75 bucks a piece nowadays, which is absolutely mind-blowing. So when I saw this, I was like, okay, cool, I'll pick it up for $1 and see what I can do with it. So anyways, I got the Microchimp. I still have yet to put batteries into it. I got POW as well, and 30 photons. not too bad. Glad we went back. Unfortunately, we can't complete the side quest on VH. Cool. What else did I get? Copy of The Flash on Game Boy, which isn't a great game, but it's actually based on the 1991 television series, which I love. So I thought, hey, why not grab that? Got also, woo! Also got these two games as well, Wario Land 4 and Warlocked for the Game Boy Color. Those only cost me a few bucks a piece, so that's kind of cool. This copy of System Shock 2, excellent PC game. I never really liked just System Shock 1, but I really like System Shock 2. Cool little puzzle game for the DS, kind of underrated, a little bit of a hidden gem, doesn't cost that much. That's Where's Waldo. If you like the Where's Waldo games, you kind of get what it's about, but on DS it makes it a little bit more, they add some different elements that make it kind of cool. The original Gears of War for PC, got it with Serial and everything like that. Never played that back in the day, so I'm kind of excited about that. I gotta jet to be back tomorrow. Save one. Night all. You too, amigo. Night. Alright, cool. So that'll give us a chance to properly log off. So we saved our game, and there we go. So yeah, I'm just kind of blasting through things here. Akami for the PS2. Played it for the PS3. Always wanted to have a PS2 copy. Fantastic game. Again, it's kind of underrated, but they did re-release it after everybody realized how cool it was. If you've seen the Netflix series The Punisher, yeah, it'd be no surprise that this is starting to float around nowadays. But this is actually, I've never actually owned a copy of this, and I always really wanted to kind of read through it. But it's the Punisher Welcome Home Frank storyline. Again, all this stuff is just thrift store stuff, so it was a few dollars a piece, not a big deal. This was kind of a cool find too. It was the Dungeons and Dragons starter set, so picked up that for $2.99. Generally goes for about $40. It's not really that rare. It's not like it's the original one. I did have an original one, and I do like the idea of D&D, but I'll be honest, I just don't have any kind of campaigns that I've ever really played on a regular basis. I used to play a lot of another game called Dragon Quest, which is also a TSR game, and it's like D&D light. I always enjoyed that one much more. And finally, this was a really interesting find. It's a really rare game, and I found it complete in box and sealed, and I'm really debating opening it, and that's Callahan's Cross Time Saloon for PC. Never thought I'd find it sealed. Really kind of shocked, actually. I've seen this game go for as much as $500 online. I think it just looks like one of those games that kind of looks like a throwaway game, which is probably why they priced it the way they priced it. Sorry about that. Yeah, found it sealed in box, so I think I'll hold on to that for a little while. It's got like a little ding on the top, but otherwise it's in absolutely perfect shape. So it's by a company called Legend, which you know, it's kind of similar to a LucasArts full motion game, but it's a little bit more gritty, I guess. Legend was the grittier version of that. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I will hopefully be back on tomorrow, which is the 23rd. Hopefully there'll be a lot of people playing some PSO tomorrow night as well, so that'll be a lot of fun. And after that is Christmas, so who knows? I don't think I'll probably be on Christmas Day. I think I'll probably be doing some family, friend type things, but we'll see what happens. And in fact, you know what? I hope you guys are doing family, friend stuff too on Christmas Day. Don't be watching me. I appreciate it, but if I'm online, you see me on YouTube, just go online to say, hey, Go pay attention to your daughter. Go pay attention to your girlfriend. Go call your mother. Get the fuck off of place. Get the fuck off of your Dreamcast. Okay. Anyways, Merry Christmas, everybody. Talk to you soon. Take care.